So it is quite stark to hear that 3 years ago, and there we've done away with our last of restrictions just a week ago. So reflecting on that, how does that make you feel on how far we've come?
Well, I think it's great that given that 3 years ago where we were, bear in mind, I think that the scenario that we were facing back then across the world, we were seeing pictures from China, from Italy, and it was clear that obviously this was a very deadly virus. And the figures that we had at the time was that about 60–80% of the whole population was going to be infected, of which 3% of those would require hospitalization and 5% of those on critical care. And given the numbers that we had here in Gibraltar, I think our key vulnerabilities certainly was about being the one hospital and so on, and therefore, hence why it needed to be a mammoth effort in getting the response that we had at the time.
Mm-hmm. And we saw the hospital go up, Nightingale, so quickly. How was that for civil contingencies behind the scenes, turning all those things around in such quick time?
Well, there were so many different elements. Bear in mind that we had actually convened in around the end of January. That's when the strategic coordinating group had convened. So it was important that we were very much focused on containing as much as we could the virus from coming here into Gibraltar. And that gave us the time to start with the Nightingale facility, as you rightly said, testing facilities and setting up all the response areas that we needed.
Yeah, so we have some images playing on screen now of that lockdown. Very stark to see those empty streets compared to the new normal now, nowhere, as they say. But although it feels somewhat normal for us, people are travelling again, it does feel like we're getting there. COVID is still real for some people, and it is something they have to deal with on a daily basis, particularly at ERS, where we are still hearing of COVID causing, visitors not being able to visit because of COVID restrictions, and that seems to be happening quite often. So what can we expect of this new normal? Are things like that, restrictions at ERS here to stay?
Well, I think that we need to be careful that clearly we need to look after the people that are most vulnerable. We are in a very different place to where we were three years ago. I don't think that the virus is as dangerous as it was then, but it is important that we keep an eye on the 5 metrics that the Director of Public Health has seen, whether we could have a large number of cases, but it is important whether those translate then to deaths, to hospitalizations, and indeed looking at whether we have any new variants that will change things and the efficiency of the vaccines.
But can you envisage, a time where that doesn't happen anymore? We're not worrying about COVID at all.
I certainly hope so, and I think that what we've seen over the last few years, it's that that there is milder disease, certainly in the area that we have been. So all going well. I'm sure that we'll go back to normality, but it actually feels that way at the moment.
Yes. Well, looking ahead now, perhaps we could talk about preparedness going forward. At the time that COVID struck, it was very clear that the world was not ready for a pandemic. Would you say, God forbid, if something were to happen again, we are more prepared now?
Well, I think that
here in Gibraltar,
the lessons that we've gained as a result of dealing with that experience has been immense. I think that looking at how the whole government came into being to support the GHA, which at the time were taking the brunt of it, as well as the ERS. But I think that I know that we are going to be having an inquiry later on in the year and so on. So it is important that we take stock of all the lessons.
Could you say of any lessons learnt just yet?
Well, in everything that we do, there has been ongoing lessons, and clearly we have tweaked areas that we have run in the past. But it is important that we take stock of the whole operation and learn those lessons. But by and large, I think that Gibraltar has done remarkably well over the 3 years as it's gone through this.